And we're going to welcome Sarah. I've said your name before. I'm going to try it here. Moskowitz. How did I do?
No, you butchered that. Maslowski.
Maslowski. Ah, see,
Yeah.
I tried. No, Maslowski. I did, right?
Nice try.
Moskowitz. No, Maslowski. You know what? That reminds me of the movie. What was that movie? Monsters Inc.
Michael Skowski, yes.
Yeah. Moskowski. Yeah, I guess it's still not right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you the floor. You have the ability to share. I don't know if you're doing a presentation or what, but I'll just let you take it away.
Thanks. So I definitely do not have a great last name to be a real estate agent. So I brand myself underneath my team name. So just oh, okay. You'll have to apologize. I'm working from home today, so we're having our house renovated, so they shouldn't be making too much noise. But if you hear noise in the background, that's what that is. So I apologize. So my goal here today with you is to kind of share exactly how I have built my business using YouTube. And I am going to kind of share with you everything that you need to know about how to get started, what to post, how to post, what equipment I use, what tools I use. And my goal here is to answer any questions that you may have about getting started. So first off, I know that we have a lot of people in the room and some people are on Zoom. Is anyone currently using video in your business? Okay, a few hands. And are anyone on YouTube? Okay, awesome. So you'll probably have some things to add as well. So I'm excited. I'm also kind of curious, do any of y'all utilize YouTube like for yourself? Do you watch videos just for fun? Nobody. Okay, so it's also my dogs. Sorry, apologize. So I am someone that whenever I was trying to figure out how to make YouTube videos work, I was very sorry, I think my husband's home from work. He's not supposed to be home. So I make YouTube videos, and one thing that was interesting to me whenever I started this journey is that it was kind of weird to me that people actually go on YouTube for fun and watch videos. I only go on YouTube whenever I have a specific need for something, when I'm trying to figure out how to fix something in my house, or women like to go on to watch YouTube or makeup tutorials, that sort of thing. Like, that's why the only kind of knowledge that I had of making or going on to YouTube to consume content was only if I had like a very, very specific need. So going back to, I kind of tell you how I got started with being a real estate agent. It was 2018 when I first got licensed. So 5 years ago. I was a former teacher, and we had only lived here in the town that we currently live in at that time for only 3 years. And so for me, I did not have a big sphere or a lot of people that I had to network with or to get a lot of business from. So as a new agent, trying to figure out how to make this work. There any new agents in the business here in the room?
A few.
Yeah, a couple of us, right? So I was in Ignite at Night, taking that session, and it was all about lead generation. And they told us that you're not in the real estate business, you're in the lead generation business. And it was like, at that moment, I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Like, I have to know people and figure out who am I going to sell houses to. Ironically, I thought this business was going to be a little bit easier than what it was. I was like, oh, I like houses and I like people, and this is going to be fun. And it was, as a new agent, sitting in Ignite, realizing that I was going to, have to find people to sell houses to, and that they weren't just going to come to me freely. So I was hustling all over the place trying to pick up business. I heard someone in the room mention that you hosted some open houses over the weekend and got a lot of contacts that way. So I did a lot of open houses in the beginning. I did a lot of Facebook stalking and Facebook groups and hunting people down that mentioned that they needed to buy a house. I did a lot of cold calling, door knocking, anything that you could think of. I was doing a little bit of everything to come up with business. And it was in 2019 when I was like hearing in all of these classes and things that we go to about how, in order to be successful or have like a really successful marketing strategy in your business, you needed to incorporate video. So I was trying to figure out, okay, like I hear this, I feel like I can kind of do some videos. So let's figure out how to make this work. And so I started trying to figure out how to make video work. So 2019, 2020, I was making videos and posting them on Facebook about kind of like how to buy a house, tips you need to know before selling your house, doing listing walkthrough videos. And it was around that time that Facebook changed their algorithm so that in order to get eyeballs on a video, you had to like put a paid ad behind it. And so I was trying to do that and realizing, one, it was expensive. And then two, I just really wasn't gaining that much traction of getting people reaching out to me. So I was a little bit frustrated trying to figure out how to make this work. It was also around that same time that I'm sure maybe you've heard this advice of how you need to become like the mayor of your town. Has anyone heard that before? And so becoming the mayor of your town, and I was like, okay, I can do that. I can go out and interview local business owners. I'll highlight them and I'll kind of become known around town as that person. Well, I went and interviewed a couple of restaurant owners, made a great video, put that on Facebook, put that on YouTube, and got hardly any views on it. And definitely no one called me to buy or sell their house because of those videos. So again, I was kind of frustrated with trying to make video work. I happened to get connected with some other real estate agents that were having success with video, and they were specifically having success with YouTube. And at the time, these videos that I was making, I was putting them on YouTube. And I was like, well, I'm doing that. Why am I not having success? And it was connecting with them and then going to their channels and looking at the types of videos that they were making and realizing there was a drastic difference between the videos they were making and the videos I was making. They were not interviewing restaurant owners. They were not doing listing tours. The content that they were making and putting on YouTube was content specific for helping people relocate to their town. And that was very eye-opening to me. I was like, oh, there's something drastically different from how their channel looks than how my channel looks. Maybe I'm making the wrong type of content. It was also around that time that Karen Carr, she used to be a KW agent. She's down in Savannah, Georgia. She started having great success with her YouTube channel. Has anyone ever heard of Karen Carr?
No.
Yeah. So in 2020, when I started researching like how she had success, she was really preaching that you needed to do a lot of SEO research and you needed to research how many people were moving to your town. So I live in Gainesville, Georgia, which is about an hour northeast of Atlanta, kind of a small suburb. Suburb is putting it lightly. We're definitely outside of the suburbs of Atlanta, but close enough that, you know, we still can take advantage of all the great things, but definitely a good solid hour north of Atlanta. And whenever I researched how many people were moving to Gainesville, Georgia in Google, you can actually do a keyword research on that. And 20 people a month were searching moving to Gainesville. And for me, that was really disheartening. I was like, 20? Like there's only 20 searches a month. That feels really low. And comparatively to these other agents that were in these bigger markets, that they were getting hundreds, if not thousands of searches a month of people moving to their town. So at first it was a little bit frustrating. I was like, I don't know if it's worth going and making video content to help people relocate to my town. And, but then I started thinking about it a little bit more. And at the time I was doing about 15 transactions a year. And so I was like, well, if I got 20 leads a month that I could potentially work with, that would be huge for my business. At the time, I definitely was not working with 20 people a month that were wanting to be in, to work with me. Sorry, the husband was passing a note under the door. So he is home. He snuck home. So getting back to track. Okay, so I decided that if 20 people a month were going to search moving to Gainesville, Georgia, And if I was the only agent that had content that showed up on Google whenever they searched, because the great thing is that YouTube is owned by Google. And so if you do a Google search for any topic and there's videos related to it, Google is going to show them those videos. And so I was like, no one else is making this. If I can happen to get in front of half of those people that are searching for this a month and have an opportunity to talk to them, that would be amazing. So that's kind of what led me down this journey of trying out YouTube. Now, I was somewhat of a newish agent, right? So I was only a year and a half, 2 years into the business whenever I started making YouTube videos. And this happens to the best of us, even if we're new in the business or if we've been in the business for many years. But I can't be the only one. But we go to all these amazing classes. We hear from all these amazing agents that do really great things really well. And we hear these good ideas and we're like, oh, I can do that. Let me go back and try to implement that in my business. And you go back and you work on it for a week or two. You realize that it's like maybe a little bit harder than what they said it was, or it takes a little bit more discipline. And then by that time you've heard of another great idea and you're like, oh, let me try that idea. And you never like really specialize in any of the ideas. Well, that was me. And that was, I was hustling really hard for all of that business and I was trying lots of different things. And I was only being somewhat successful because I was trying way too many things. So I had that kind of talk with myself and I'm like, all right, we're going to try this YouTube thing, but we're really going to try. Like we're going to be really disciplined about this. And we're going to go all in for 90 days. And then we're going to evaluate it and see if we want to give up on it. I had never like really made it 90 days through any specific strategy to that point. I was not very disciplined. So one of the things that I learned from these other agents that were having success with YouTube is that one, you have to identify like a niche of video topics that you're making content on. I would highly suggest that you make those video topics for people that are relocating to your area. Because think about it. Local people are not going to be the audience that's going to search for moving to your area, or they're not going to be the ones watching that video content. They're likely not going to go to YouTube to search any type of real estate related information for your town. They're going to get recommendations from their family and friends, or they might see some ads or something on Facebook or Instagram, but likely that's not the avatar of the person that's going to YouTube. The people that are going to YouTube and doing some research are people that need that research. They need to know where they're potentially moving to, either for a job or for, just because they have the freedom to move wherever now because they're now working remotely from home. So those are the people that are going onto YouTube and searching your town. So therefore, I highly recommend niching down and making content specific to those people. So thankfully, I was able to find other agents that were having success doing this. And so the great thing about Keller Williams is that it really teaches us that success leaves clues. All you have to do is find a few people that are doing something really well and then just rip off and duplicate their content or their strategies or their systems or their models. We freely share those ideas as a company, and there's really not a whole lot of original ideas. And so I knew that if I could just model and duplicate what these other agents who said they were having success, then maybe I could have some success. So one of the things I initially did, and I'm sharing with you because you might be talking to yourself in your head right now and saying, gosh, I cannot present on camera. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. I don't have that great of a personality. Like, you're giving yourself all this negative self-talk of why it can't work. And when I found these other agents that were having success, I like immediately went to their channel, right? Because we're nosy and we want to see like how good their videos are. Well, I'll share with you, their videos were not that good. And they themselves were not that good on camera. But for me, that was super inspiring because I was like, hey, they're having success. Their videos aren't like some master production that they're putting on with like this amazing editing. You can tell they're not spending like tens of thousands of dollars to do this. It looks to be pretty low budget, low tech, and they're having success with that. And their presentation skills weren't that good. So I realized that that gave me a lot of inspiration that if it could work for them, I could at least kind of like match and do what they were doing. So you really want to identify some other people that you can copy and kind of mimic what they're doing, and you'll eventually kind of put your own style on things, but do that. So the first thing, if you're going to make content, is to really kind of identify who you're making that content for. I make content for people that are relocating, and that's really super important. And I found other people that were doing that well, and I kind of copy and duplicate what they have done. I'm not very creative. I don't come up with really good ideas, but I am creative in the sense that I can duplicate or model after what someone else is doing. So we talked about how to identify and kind of figure out what type of content you're going to make. And then the next thing that we're going to talk about is kind of how to plan out that content. But before I dive into that, does anybody have any questions so far about what we just covered?
Yeah, there were a few in the chat group. Who are some good people to R&D off of?
Oh, great question.
Besides yourself, of course.
Yes, you can definitely duplicate me now. And Ken Posick is, amazing. He's in Orlando. And so one thing that you'll notice if you watch my videos and if you go look at Ken does his videos on location. I do mine talking head style. And so kind of like exactly how I'm talking to the camera right now, and I have my backdrop behind me, that is exactly what almost all of my videos are like. And then on top of that, we put in what we call B-roll, which is if I'm telling you about Gainesville, Georgia, then you start to see some video footage that pops up on the screen of what I'm talking about, so that you're not just like staring at me the entire time. Whereas Ken is like on location in front of the thing that he's talking about. And then there's also, cutting to some camera footage of where they're at. Two different ways of doing it, and both are very successful. On location, for me, whenever I tried that, I found it takes a lot of time. You have to plan around weather. You have to plan around, school buses and trash trucks and winds and all those things that just made it not successful for me. So the great thing about filming it talking head style is that you can do it. This is a room in my basement. A secret here, you see these two walls that are painted behind me. It's just two walls that I was lazy and I only painted these two walls. The rest are not painted. There's a bunch of stuff over here piled up in the corner. So you don't have to like have a perfect backdrop. And you kind of have like a consistent variables that you can control. And I can film videos on a Sunday night at 8:00 if I want to, and nobody knows. Whereas you can't go film, obviously, on location, do that. So back to the question, Ken is really good. There's a great agent in San Diego. His name is Dan Parker. I love the way his videos are. There is an agent in Florida. He's a KW agent. His name is Paul Likens. His video style is really unique. He covers the Palm Beach area and he rides around on his bicycle with a GoPro, and he's in his Hawaiian shirt. That's kind of like his signature thing. And he's just like talking to the camera as he bicycles around a neighborhood and is telling people about the neighborhood. Or he'll stop at the local ice cream shop and put the camera on the table and talk to the people about the area that he's in. So his style is also really unique. And I'm just sharing this with you that there's lots of different ways to be successful making YouTube content. There is no right or wrong way. It's just whatever way you feel comfortable and that you can consistently make content for.
Hey, Brandy, can I jump in? You had said that before you were doing on-site, but decided to go, well, you were talking head style, then you went to on-site, then you came back to talking head style, just because of being able to be efficient with your time.
Yes. So I've been making content now for about 2.5 years. And we now, I'll take you back to the beginning. Whenever I started making videos, I made that commitment to myself that I was going to make videos. An important thing that you have to do with this strategy is you have to post one video a week. It's imperative. You will not be successful with this if you're not consistent in posting one video a week. And at the very beginning, whenever I was filming myself, I was like, oh, I'm going to edit this myself. I'm a newish agent. I don't have the budget to hire this out. Well, it was like 10 o'clock at night and I'm like editing a video, trying to figure out how to make a title move across the screen. And I was exhausted and I realized like, okay, this is not sustainable if I'm going to continue to be successful or if I'm going to even make this have a chance at all of being successful, I'm going to have to leverage this out. I am a real estate agent. I'm not an editor. So I'm notoriously cheap in my business and I hate spending money. Don't be like me. I made that decision of like, okay, you're gonna have to suck it up and pay out of pocket to have someone do this if you're going to give yourself a shot at staying consistent for the next 3 months that I told myself I would. So you're going to have to leverage out the editing piece. You can find an editor through Fiverr. You can find an editor through a local teenager. You might have a teenager that you can, pay to do some editing that might have those skills. But it just needs to be someone that's not you, because your time is better spent servicing your clients, getting new clients, because you're going to have to keep, servicing other business and getting other clients while you're getting this lead generation strategy up and going. So I say all that to say that I did it talking head style. I leveraged out to the editor. We have a really great business now that I don't necessarily have to be as cheap with my money as what I have been. And I can afford to hire a videographer to film me on location, and so that it's not like a one-man band anymore. So I recently tried this for about 6 weeks. We tried shooting on location. And what I realized for me personally was that it took an incredible amount of time out of my business to go film videos. It would take us 3 hours to film on location, even if we were bouncing around from different spots in a very tight vicinity. It just took so much longer to do. We often had to reschedule the shooting days, the filming days, because of weather, or because some client emergency popped up that I needed to go handle. And it was just incredibly stressful for me and hard. I realized that I personally wasn't leveraged enough for me personally to step out of my business that much to film on location. It's much easier for me to film in my studio talking head style. It takes me about 20 minutes to film a video. So I can knock out 3 or 4 videos and only film 1 time a month. Whereas that was taking me at least 4 half days to film 1 month's worth of content. And that's just, it was a lot for me personally to be out and not working on my business.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wait, you're in Georgia. How in the heck can you be bothered with weather?
Right. Well, it does rain here and it's windy and but it was mostly rain. So that was the thing. The weather here can change on a dime and a rainstorm will just pop up. So
I know there's some questions in chat. Susie, you got one?
Yeah. So and I think you partially covered it. What tools would you suggest for editing?
Yeah. So again, I would highly recommend that you leverage it out. And I say that with love, not to like gatekeep any tools, whatever editing software. There's iMovie, there's something, I don't know, there's other softwares out there, but you just aren't going to be able to be successful editing your own stuff and still run a real estate business and be consistent.
Sarah, what's the expected price for Fiverr for something like that?
So you're going to pay between $100, maybe $200 a video. And you might be able to find people cheaper than that. I've learned that you get what you pay for. So looking back on it, if you would have told me in the beginning, hey, you're going to need to spend $250 on an edited video, I would be like, oh my gosh, that is so expensive. I'm not making that investment. And you don't necessarily have to. You can work your way up to better editors. So the cool thing is that whenever I first started posting my videos, I filmed them myself. I edited the first couple of myself. So I filmed them with my iPhone, and I still film them to this day with my iPhone. So I have a tripod, my iPhone, I have an external microphone, and a couple of lights. Very cheap on Amazon. You don't have to like make a high-tech investment into this. It would cost me maybe $150 all in with the equipment that I had outside of my phone. And so those first couple of videos that I posted, once you post your first videos, if you're like me, you're gonna like run to the computer after you post it and you want to know how many people are watching your videos. And I'm here to tell you that unless you just have like super success right out of the gate, nobody is going to watch your videos. It was like 7 people after a couple of days, and I was like, oh God, this sucks. Like what's wrong? And then you're like, oh, it's okay. It's just like the first couple of days. It takes a while, right? It takes like a week or so before it'll catch on. Even a week later, it was like 12 people had watched the video. And then it's time for the next video. And so you post the next one, and it's still getting like the same amount of views. But what I learned from other agents that were having success with this is that you just have to give it time. You have to be consistent and you have to commit to the process. So it was about 6 weeks into the process of continuing posting videos when it was a Saturday afternoon and my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, and it was obviously an unknown number. So I answer it, and the guy's like, hey, is this Sarah? We found you on YouTube. We watched your videos, and we're thinking about, taking a job in Gainesville and want to, talk to you more about helping us find a house. And y'all, I was so excited. I could like barely like keep it together and try to figure out like what questions I was supposed to ask and pretend like I've done this all the time. And so super exciting. And after I got off the phone with him, I like ran through the house to find my husband. I'm like, someone just called me. And he was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, he just didn't quite get it, but he finally got it. So it was super exciting to get that first phone call. And that first call came off of really bad videos, like me editing them, not great lighting, definitely did not have this background at that time. I filmed it like on some boring wall against my house and in a weird room. And so where I'm going with that is that you definitely can start off with what you can be consistent on. And so you don't have to make a big investment in the beginning, and yet it's going to be incredibly hard to sustain it over time, because who's ever like gone to make a flyer on Canva or something like that, and you look up and like 3 hours later, you're perfecting your open house flyer, right? Like that's just not what you should be spending your highest and best use of your time on. So I highly recommend getting an editor and having someone else figure all that out, because there's a huge learning curve in trying to figure out these editing software programs and how to make things do what you want it to do. So someone in the chat had asked, like, can you use your cell phone to create the content? Yes, I told you I still film on my cell phone today. Like I'm not someone techie enough that could figure out how to use a digital camera and transfer the file off the camera onto my computer. Like that's just not me. So do whatever works for you. But I know a lot of people that are successful that still just use their iPhone. There's powerful cameras on there now, so it looks just as good as a digital camera.
Sarah, do you record also using the camera that you're on right now?
So I am on my computer, MacBook. I do not record with that. Just it's easier for me to use my iPhone. I only do this for Zooms.
Got it.
Yeah. So whenever we talked a little bit about the equipment that you're going to need. You don't have to invest a lot of money into that. You likely already have a lot of what you need already. And the next thing you need to know is planning out your content of what you're going to post. I was able to learn from a couple of people that were very highly trained with YouTube content and learned one way to make this process easier is that you want to come up with 4 buckets of content. And we talked about that you're going to post 1 video a week. So essentially you're rotating through 4 topics each month. And what's important about that is that YouTube is amazing at finding the audience for your video. So I told you that in the beginning, like only a couple people watched the video, right? Well, YouTube just needs time to figure out who they can put that video in front of that's going to watch that video. And YouTube needs time to go through your content and realize like, hey, this is a video about moving to Gainesville, Georgia. This person just searched moving to Gainesville, Georgia. Let's put this in front of them and see if they watch it. So YouTube needs time to find out who your ideal audience is. So what will happen is that whenever a couple of people watch your video, YouTube will go, oh, hey, here's someone else that kind of behaves in a similar way on YouTube. They haven't searched for this term, but we think they might like this video. And so then they put your thumbnail or your suggested video in front of them after they watch some random video. And you'll be surprised at how smart they are at figuring out who's already thinking about moving to your area or might show interest in it. And that's how you also kind of pick up viewers. But it takes YouTube a couple of weeks to figure out your video every time you post one. So you don't want to like deluge the algorithm with a bunch of videos about the exact same content back to back to back without giving the algorithm time to kind of figure out the first one. So 4 buckets of content for me, what I saw other videos on other agents' channels be very successful were video topics like pros and cons of living in blank town. So one of my first videos was pros and cons of living in Gainesville. And then 4 weeks later, I made a video of pros and cons of living in Buford, which is another town 20 minutes away that I also serve. So I would rotate every 4 weeks with a pros and cons video of a new town that was nearby me that I served. We have a big lake where I live. And so buying lake houses is a very popular type of home buying process. And so I had knowledge in that area. So one of my buckets of content was buying a home on Lake Lanier, like everything you needed to know about that. So every 4 weeks, I would make a video on Lake Lanier and it's like specialized knowledge that you would need on that. I think another one of the earlier buckets was like cost of living. How much does it cost to live in blank town? And then I think the 4th bucket of content that's really easy to do is like a list. 5 things you need to know before blank. Buying a new construction house in Georgia. 10 mistakes buyers make when moving to blank. So those are just an example, but it really helps to plan out that content so that you're not always trying to figure out what to do. Now, the cool thing is that you don't really have to come up with that many content ideas. It's all really essentially the exact same content, just with a tiny different spin. But what you'll find out is that your audience, once they start watching it, they're going to think like every video is just amazing or new information. But really, if you like went back and studied it, you would realize that all the videos are essentially me just talking about the same things over and over again, but we just called it something slightly different and changed the order in which we presented the information. So over time, you're going to feel like you're running out of ideas, but all you got to do is just remake a video that you've already done with a slightly different title. So that is something that you're going to need to know.
Can I speak a little more to some of the in-depth content on the description that will help you with the search engine results? So if you do a video that's like 5 mistakes to avoid when buying new construction, are you filling the body with that text, or are you just with a link to connect?
So both. So whenever you are putting the content out there, and so we'll talk a little bit more about posting that content, but you do want to have your title, you want that to be very short, as short as possible, short and catchy. I mentioned before that kind of like an old school way of doing YouTube content was that you needed to like heavily research SEO, search engine optimization words, and you needed to keyword stuff your title and your description. And whenever I started connecting with these other agents and asking them how much time they were spending researching their title, planning their description, doing their keywords, going into TubeBuddy and getting the perfect score, they were like, we don't do that at all. And I was like, oh, okay. Here I am like wasting hours trying to get the perfect title and the perfect description, when really, if you're just simply making content about moving to a specific area, that is in and of itself search engine optimized, so long as you use those words in the video. So for example, I just saw another agent who I'm good friends with. He lives in northern Michigan and he's trying to get started with YouTube. And he made a video I saw that he posted and it said, "What happened to waterfront homes?" Okay, that's close, but he needed to keep going and say what happened to waterfront homes in northern Michigan. That in whatever town or living in or moving to, that always kind of needs to be part of your title, because that is what makes it search engine optimized. So the description, it doesn't have to be very lengthy. You just want 3 to 4 sentences that describes what your video is about. And then also in the description of the video, you always want to tell them how to reach you. So whenever you are making your video, you really want to capture someone's attention within the first 5 to 10 seconds. And so how many of y'all are on TikTok or watch TikTok videos?
There are
Yeah.
no.
Okay. So TikTok videos have gotten longer and longer. They started out 30 seconds. Now they're 60 seconds. Sometimes they can go up to 3 minutes.
I got 10 minutes.
How annoyed do you get whenever you're watching a TikTok video and they're going to tell you something, but they keep going on and on and on and on, and you're like, just get to the point. And then you're like wanting to like scroll past them. So you want to keep that same mentality when you're making your YouTube content. You don't want like this really lengthy introduction telling everyone how great you are and where you serve and what your name is and who you're with. You just want to like jump right into the content of the video. So you do that, and then a few seconds later, after you get into kind of telling people what the video is about, then you can introduce yourself. And you don't want your videos to be super salesy. Your information that you're providing to them is the sales part for you. People are going to be so thankful that you are providing them this information and sharing and educating them. And so my call to action for people is that, hey, if you're thinking about making a move to the North Metro Atlanta area, my contact information is below this video. I want to be your agent. Can't wait to hear from you. And I'll say that maybe twice in the video, sometimes not even at all, but you will be surprised at how many people will end up contacting you and connecting with you as a result of you just making that information. So in the beginning, some other agents, Karen Carr at one point was teaching, you need to have like a landing page and people need to download your relocation guide. And what I learned from other agents that had tried that was that you're going to end up having to sift through a bunch of junk leads. Whereas if you just tell someone, hey, if you're thinking about making a move, contact me. Well, guess what? The people that will pick up the phone and contact you are the people that have a very, very high intent of reaching out to you or very, very high intent of moving to your area. So to share a little bit of numbers with you, I started consistently posting videos in October of 2020. That was when I made that commitment to myself. We got that first phone call about 6 weeks later. I closed one transaction as a result of YouTube in 2020. And we put construction under contract. Super excited. I mean, I didn't even think that I would have success that quickly with having 2 clients in just a short amount of time. In 2021, we helped 15 families as a result of YouTube. And in 2022, we helped 40 families for, I think that was 27 million in volume that came directly from YouTube in 2022. And so my business has drastically shifted so that it used to be me hustling for business all over the place in Sphere to now it's only Sphere-based business and only YouTube. So 65-70% of our business now comes directly from YouTube. And really what my days look like are that I'm just servicing the leads and the people that are reaching out to us as a result of YouTube, and then keeping up with my database touches and talking to my database. I don't do any other type of lead generation. I don't cold call anymore. I don't host open houses. Really, it's just everything is as a direct result from YouTube, which has been really, really amazing.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, and I think it's important to hear the progression. It's not an overnight success. If you have an idea that it's going to happen just by doing 2 months worth of videos, then maybe don't waste your time.
Right. And so one of the cool things about this strategy, though, is that just naturally over time, it's going to snowball. So yeah, I share with y'all that when I first started posting videos, I was lucky to get 20 views in a month. Now, when I post a video, my numbers are like usually I get 600 or so views within that first week And now we have, on average, 2,000 to 3,000 people watching our YouTube channel every 48 hours. That's crazy. That's insane. And before those numbers were like zero, like there was no metrics to measure. And the reason that kind of snowballs and accelerates like that is because you're building out this library of content for people to binge watch. And I don't say that lightly. People will really binge watch your content. I have people call me all the time and say, oh, my husband and I watch your videos every single night. That's what we do when we eat dinner. And we've seen them all. And you're like, okay. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But just naturally over time, it's like the law of accumulation that's going to happen. And so, but the important thing is that it's only going to happen if you commit to it and if you're consistent. I know some people will have a lot more instant success given the size of their market. And some people, it takes a lot longer. I've connected with some agents where it took them a good solid 6 months before they kind of started picking up some steam. I would just strongly encourage you that you don't want to get caught up in the metrics of how many people are watching, liking, subscribing. What you do want to get caught up in is, are people actually reaching out to you? It took me forever to get to the first 1,000 subscribers. I'm talking like a year and a half. Now we're over almost at 5,500. But that first year and a half, it took forever just to reach that first 1,000. And I would get kind of really discouraged about that, but yet we were still closing a lot of business. I was making a lot of money, and you don't want to get caught up in the wrong things. Get caught up in, are you actually able to serve clients as a result of your content? Not necessarily how many people are actually liking and subscribing, because who cares if 0 people subscribed, but so long as they're calling me, that's all I care about.
We have another question.
I have a question.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Yes, so with the popularity of short form content, what is the next trend, right? What would you prefer, or what would you advise us to do? Focus on the shorts, which picks up subscribers faster and it gets the algorithm faster, or focus on the long form content, or is there some kind of ratio that you do?
I think I heard that you were asking short form versus long form. What
Yes.
should you, sorry, they just started nailing something upstairs. So the best thing that I feel, so back when I started this in fall of 2020, TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, they were like, shorts weren't even a thing. TikTok was like only cool people knew about that. And so I will say that I would pick one form of video content to specialize in, and then kind of branch out and add more. The one benefit of short form content is that, yes, you can get more views and more, it's easier to produce that content and make that content. Short form content is much more expected to be very informal, not as edited. You don't have to put B-roll on top of it and have like this production behind it. You can film it in your car, and those are very, very successful. I will say though, if you're going to do YouTube, I would focus on the long form. Like that is a very, very proven track record and method to success. I think the downside to short form content is that you have to produce a lot more of it, but granted, it's only 30-second to a minute videos. Whereas this will answer Leisha's question in the chat, is what is a good length for your video on YouTube? The longer the better, and there's a sweet spot. So you want to make that between like 8 to 10 minutes in length. The reason why longer videos are better is because YouTube rewards watch time versus percentage watched. So I can make a 4-minute video that someone watches the entire thing, and I can make a 10-minute video that someone only watches half of, and YouTube is going to think, the algorithm's going to favor that 10-minute video because someone watched that for more minutes versus percentage. So also the thing with going longer than 10 minutes is it's incredibly hard to be engaging and create a video that captures someone's attention long enough that they want to watch all of the video. Almost all of my videos, if you go and look at the behind the scenes analytics, most of the videos are only watched halfway through. occasionally you get people that will watch the entire thing, but and that's pretty common across the board. So having those longer videos helps with feeding what the algorithm wants.
Okay, my question.
Yeah.
How do you protect
Speak
your
up.
privacy? What are there apps or whatever that you use to protect your privacy online? On YouTube? Like a VPN or what? I mean, I'm non-techie, okay?
Yeah. No, so I don't use anything. I don't tell people where I live. I'm not giving out my address, but I am giving people out my phone number and telling them how to reach me and to please call me if they're thinking about moving. I think maybe 2 times I've gotten some weird phone calls of maybe someone that has no intention of moving, but they just want to talk to me. But I don't know if I've gotten lucky. I don't know if I've gotten lucky, but you know, for the most part, that hasn't had to be an issue at all whatsoever. So I really don't want to protect my privacy because I want people to Google search me and come up, and I want them to watch my videos and call. But yeah, I haven't had anything negative happen other than just someone.
I got another question. You mentioned you do B-roll. Are you using Fiverr to get B-roll?
So the best B-roll is B-roll of your actual whatever you're talking about. And so you might live in an area where there's already a lot of content online or sources where you can go, like third-party sources, and pay to get those video clips. Most of the time, though, you're not going to be able to find that. So you are going to want to film your own B-roll. And so what that looked like in the beginning, we didn't have the ability or time at all to go out and film our own B-roll. So if we were talking about Lake Lanier, we were showing a Google image picture of Lake Lanier, and it was just a still image that we would show. Now, there are some third-party websites. One of them is called Storyblocks. You can pay for a subscription to that website, and you can get generic footage so that if you're talking about negotiating a home sale, you know, it's showing like 2 people sitting across from a table with a calculator, you know, in front of them, and it's a video of that. So you can use that, and you want to supplement your videos with that type of footage as well, because you're not going to go out and film, you know, negotiating a house. That's just not, you know, you're not going to do that, but you do want local footage of what you're talking about. So we film that ourselves. I've tried a couple of times of hiring a videographer or a college kid, someone to go out and get footage, mixed results on that. Maybe it's my poor communication skills, but we would say, hey, we need like a 3-second clips of this shopping center. And they would deliver back like a cinematic shot of a bird on a bench outside of a Target. And I'm like, y'all, no, we just need like the people walking in and out of Target, and, you know, pan through the parking lot for me. So we just found that it was much easier for us to go out and do it. So we have a gimbal. It's a $100 tool that you put your phone on it. It balances it and gives you like smooth shots. And it's pretty basic 101 of getting that footage. And we upload that and give it to our editor. And then he takes out those clips and uses what he needs out of that. If we're talking about a shopping area, now he has footage of that. One thing that we found that's been helpful, or that we kind of learned in our process, was that, hey, we're making videos repeatedly about the same areas. So I mentioned that Lake Lanier was one of my buckets of content. So if I'm going out one day and getting footage of Lake Lanier, I'm getting a lot of footage of the lake. I'm getting anything and everything that I think I could ever talk about. And then we go back and we put that into a Google Drive folder, and we kind of cut those clips out and label them, you know, like man fishing on a boat, crappy looking dock, you know, so that we have like our own library footage of what we can go pull from, so that 2 months from now, whenever I make a video about Lake Lanier, we're not having to go back out and get that footage again. We've already have a library from it. So now it's only kind of rare that we have to go out and get new footage.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So if you are videoing like a parking lot and people coming in and out of a store, and you have all the cars in the parking lot, you have license plates, you have privacy laws of people that maybe don't want to be on video, and then they see themselves and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, is there any kind of repercussions for doing that?
Yeah. So y'all are on the West Coast, right? In Washington?
Yes.
Yeah, we're in Georgia. We don't care about that.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding. No, I do appreciate the question. And, you know, from my understanding, like if you're in a public place, you're consenting to being filmed. And we've never had, there's been occasionally times like where we've been filming something on a sidewalk and people are in the background of the shot and they'll like scurry around because clearly they don't want to be in the frame. But, you know, for the most part, we've never had to worry about that. And then in the 2.5 years that we've been posting content, I've never had anyone contact me and say, hey, my face is in the background of your video, get it down. So.
And I would say if you're concerned about it on your B-roll stuff, you can have your editor blur faces and license plates.
Okay, so B-roll is basically just going to a public place and filming, so I was wondering.
Yeah,
what
it's kind of
B-roll is.
like she's doing the talking head and then you know when you watch a video and then it switches to something else
Oh,
while they're still talking over the top of it. That's called B-roll.
oh,
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and it's just important because you want to share that, you know, footage and it makes a more interesting, entertaining video. But it's rare that we're like actually focusing on people in the video. Most of the time, whenever we're capturing B-roll, we're capturing neighborhoods and locations and shopping centers and grocery stores and, you know, showing a busy intersection that has a lot of cars. You know, telling people that sort of thing so that as we're giving a video complaining about, hey, you're going to have a lot of traffic, that people complain about congestion in this area, then you're like seeing the congestion in that area. Like that's a good example of B-roll, but that's a great question.
Okay, we got 2 more questions and then we got to let her go because we're at time unless you give us a little extra time. Kelly?
Yeah, coaching. Do you do it? And did you do it to get started?
Good question. I do not do coaching. There is a really great Facebook group.
Is that Karen Cars?
Eric Cardinals.
No, it's not Karen Cars. It's called, I was trying to pull it up. It's called Real
Yeah.
Estate YouTube Mastermind. And it has a red banner at the top. Let me just give you it's called Real Estate YouTube Mastermind. And there's a lot of good, successful agents making great YouTube content on that. I will say when it comes to courses, it really depends on how you learn best. And I will say there is no magic to anything of what you're doing. This is pretty simple. There's really not a whole lot more than what I've shared with you today. You got to be consistent, find other people's videos to copy and duplicate, have a description, tell people how to reach you, rinse and repeat, and just keep doing that. So I did not do coaching because I realized that some of these people have like free courses that you can take and you can learn a lot of information, but all the information I learned in these Facebook groups. So, but if you're someone that learns best through a course, then sure, go for it. But in that real estate YouTube mastermind, there's 2 people that have courses in there. One, her name is Christina Smallhorn. She's fantastic and amazing. Pretty much everything that I've taught you today is what I've really learned from her. And the other founder of that group, his name is Malcolm Lawson, and he's also really great. And he has a course that he sells as well.
Okay.
But you'll learn a lot just from being in those Facebook groups and people asking questions and reading what people suggest. And you'll find who the people are that are having success with this, and then you can just mimic and mock what they're doing.
Awesome.
You mentioned Ken Posick. How do you spell his last name?
He is spelled Pozek, and he's in Orlando.
Well, I pictured
Oh, yeah, he's a killer. He's an awesome.
Paul Lycan.
Yes, Lykin.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we talked about identifying your niche. We talked about planning your content. So you want those 4 buckets. We went into talking about creating. You want to capture someone's attention really quickly. Whenever it comes to posting your videos, you have to be consistent. You want to pick, I didn't say this, but you want to pick 1 day a week and you want to post at the same time every single week. It doesn't matter what that day and time is. Just pick a day and time that you can be consistent. The great thing is that you can schedule a post. So I think our videos go up every Sunday at 5 o'clock. And we schedule that, you know, like on Friday before we leave, and those just automatically get posted for us. So it's not like you have to be in front of a computer doing that. We did not talk about this, but this is super important. You want to post directly to YouTube and you want to leave the video there. Do not post that video anywhere else.
Oh,
And the reason is that if you're trying to capture relocation buyers, if you're niche or you're making content on something else, sure, post that video elsewhere. But what I learned about this is that the reason it's important is that you want to protect that algorithm and you want to protect the people that are watching your videos so that YouTube will go out and find you more of those people. If you post your link to Facebook or if you share it in your newsletter and it's pros and cons of living in your hometown, well, all of the people that know you are going to go watch that video or click on it, and they're going to look at it and they're like, oh, look at Sarah. She's making videos. Isn't that neat? They're going to watch 5 seconds of it and then they're going to bounce. Well, what you just did to YouTube is you just sent a flood of traffic to that video. People only watched it for 5 to 10 seconds and then they left. Now YouTube thinks that all these people came, watched it, and it was a bad video, and they're not going to put it in front of other people. So that is not your ideal audience. Those people already live in your town. They don't need to know about the pros and cons of your town. So you want to protect your YouTube algorithm. It is not a good idea to pay for ads, send any type of paid traffic to your video. That's a great way to get a lot of views, but it's not a great way to get anyone calling you to buy your house, because that's what's important. You want people that will call you to buy a house, not get your subscriber count or your views up. Remember, your views and your subscriber count, just like me in my experience, may be low for a really long time, but that's okay because people are calling you and you're making money off of people that want to go out and buy a house.
I think that was like the biggest tip I got out of that, is not to post it across, because that
Yeah.
makes sense. You're not trying to poison your audience by having
Right.
it to people that it's not relevant to.
Yes. And then you just want to make sure you're telling people how to get in touch with you. You want to make it easy for people to find your phone number. We just copy and paste the exact same thing in all of our videos to make it really easy for people to find us.
Do you
So-
put your email in there or just phone number?
I do. I put our email, and because our lead count has gotten so much now, we actually created a special email address that we only put on YouTube. It's hello at my team name. And that way I have an assistant that manages that so that she's on those as soon as they come in, because if it used to come to me, and what I found is that I was so busy that I wasn't getting back to someone until the next day, and here someone is in your inbox saying they're going to be in town this weekend and they want to go buy a house, and then you haven't responded back to them. So as you get busier, but you might just want to preemptively kind of plan and think about that. Another thing that you might want to plan preemptively and think about is that if you're a solo agent, you might want to go ahead and as you're making content, talk about your team. My team and I serve this area. We specialize in this. Even if it's just you have a team of lenders, you have a team of home inspectors, all those kind of things, but just say your team, because there's going to be a day when this might be very successful for you and it might be more business than what you can handle. And you might want to hand off some of these leads to someone else to work. And then that's setting the expectation up with your audience that's watching you and getting to know you, that, hey, it may not always be Sarah that helps me buy a house. It might be someone else on her team. So that's another thing that I wish I would have done from the very beginning.
Well, can we show our appreciation one more time? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I love answering the questions. So thank y'all for being such a great audience and for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I would strongly encourage you that if you're thinking about doing this, go for it, do it. There's a lot of people that have success with this business strategy, and can be wildly successful. It just takes time, consistency, and I would just strongly encourage you that if you're going to do it, commit to doing it and do it well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all for having me.
Right.
Thanks. Bye.